Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. One of the deliberations that we had was to address mindset change, challenge for peace and development. Please allow me to read word per word, because at the end of this meeting, we are going to append our signatures. So I want us to really follow through so that we know what we are appending our signatures on. Thank you. The Kasunga 10, the Kasunga 11 delegates acknowledge that a significant challenge hindering peace efforts, social and economic growth, and effective service delivery is the negative mindset that prevails among leaders and voters. They highlighted that the expectations of monetary gain as a primary motivation during elections has adversely affected the proper implementation of government programs and contributed to the abuse of office. The delegates also noted the increasing pressure placed on elected leaders through fundraising activities during campaign seasons, as well as demands for money for funerals and parties, etc., rather than focusing on developmental initiatives. These are the resolutions that we reached, ladies and gentlemen. We therefore resolved that we need to do the following. 1, ban fundraising activities by churches during election campaigns, with the Interreligious Council issuing a directive to guide all churches. 2, that we need to launch a joint broad-based awareness campaign on mindset change involving all relevant stakeholders. 3, we agreed that the government, through the office of the RDC, should operationalize the pillar of mindset change under the PDM program. We also agreed, ladies and gentlemen, that we need to strengthen coordination among stakeholders working on mindset at the district level under the leadership of the RDC. We also agreed that the Electoral Commission should adopt more effective methods for voter education, incorporating lessons from the puppet show that was showcased yesterday during the retreat. I hope we were all able to see the puppet show and what transpired. We also agreed that we need to strengthen community policing structures to support peace-building efforts. Ladies and gentlemen, the second key deliberation that we did agree on is to address food insecurity and malnutrition for peaceful communities. The Kasunga 11 delegates recognize the widespread food insecurity and malnutrition in the Rwenzori region, which has led to a hungry society, vulnerable to manipulation during political campaigns. They noted that malnourished and stunted individuals often show signs of mental retardation, making them more susceptible to involvement in violent activities, thus posing a threat to peace. The delegates emphasized the need for concerted efforts to address malnutrition and food insecurity to foster peaceful communities. And these are the resolutions under this deliberation. This is what we agreed, that we need to shift the mindset of leaders and community members through comprehensive awareness campaigns. We also agreed that we need to encourage household food production and consumption as a means of improving nutrition and self-sufficiency. Ladies and gentlemen, we also agreed to promote the use or the growth of indigenous seeds, while discouraging the use of the genetically modified organisms, or what we call the GMOs, as this supports sustainable and resilient food production. Ladies and gentlemen, number 3, we need to strengthen informal structures for justice and conflict resolution. The delegates yesterday recognized a growing public frustration with the formal court systems inability to effectively deliver justice and resolve conflicts. This inadequacy has driven citizens to address their grievances through violence. Therefore, the delegates emphasized the importance of strengthening and promoting informal structures as viable alternatives to courts. These structures must be impartial and led by individuals of integrity to uphold moral authority in mediating, reconciling, counseling, advising, and resolving disputes. These are the resolutions, ladies and gentlemen. 1, that we need to empower and popularize district peace committees. That we need to strengthen elders forums at the regional, district, sub-county, parish, and village levels. That we need to promote active involvement of religious institutions in conflict resolution. That we also need to support cultural institutions, including clan leaders, in fostering harmony and resolving disputes. We also agreed that we need to engage policymakers to enhance legal frameworks that prevent electoral malpractice and violence. We also agreed that we need to identify and nurture future leaders with integrity. The delegates recognized an ongoing crisis in leadership, largely attributed to the absence of systems for identifying and nurturing individuals with strong values and attributes. This void has allowed those with financial means to secure leadership positions without merit. To address this, the delegates emphasized the need for structured mechanisms to identify and develop future leaders. These are the resolutions, ladies and gentlemen, under this. We resolved that elders should develop and apply transparent methodologies for identifying and recommending potential leaders with integrity. That we need to establish a leadership academy to train young leaders. That we also need to create a mentorship program for nurturing the emerging leaders. And lastly, we agreed that we need to form a regional elders forum as an informal structure to promote peace and accountability. Number 5, we agreed that we need to enhance accountability of the religious institutions. The delegates expressed concern over the issue of leaders with an ethical behavior providing significant financial support to religious institutions, which compromises the institution's ability to hold them accountable. Despite this challenge, it was acknowledged that religious leaders still possess the authority and moral influence to address such misconduct from our leaders. The delegates unanimously agreed on the importance of these institutions condemning inappropriate behavior and enforcing sanctions on leaders who fail to uphold societal values. And this is the resolution, ladies and gentlemen, that we need to strengthen the independence of religious institutions to enable them condemn unethical behavior and enforce moral accountability among leaders through economic empowerment and financial dependency, liberation of the religious institutions. Please bear with me, I'm almost done. Number 6, we agreed that we need to ensure free and fair elections. The leaders from yesterday's meeting unanimously affirmed that free and fair elections are fundamental to achieving peace. The leaders acknowledged that there were several signs of unfairness during previous political primaries and general and by-elections, which risked causing insecurity and violence, if not fully addressed. The delegates recognized that several actors had not done their work effectively, which contributed to several cases of voter bribery, rigging by ballot stuffing, and declaration of false results. And democratic practices during political primaries, compromised security agencies which gave them preferential treatment to some candidates. Election by lining up during LC elections, which compromises confidentiality of the voters and leads to tensions and gender-based violence at household levels. Insufficient voter education, among others. The delegates appreciated that ensuring peaceful, free, and fair elections require collective effort from stakeholders, from all stakeholders, including the RDC, the Electoral Commission, the police, the DISO, the civil society fraternity, religious leaders, the media fraternity, and political leaders. And these are the resolutions. That all participants pledge to act as agents of peace throughout the 2026 general elections and beyond. As a demonstration to this commitment, leaders signed a pledge for peace as a commitment to uphold peace before, during, and after the 2026 general elections. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope we're all able to sign the peace pledge just right behind us. We also agreed that we need to enhance collaboration among stakeholders to promote peaceful electoral processes. That MPs should pass a law in government banning election by lining up to enable vote confidentiality and mitigate risks associated with targeting voters who are seen voting other candidates. That political parties should address concerns of internal democracy to promote a transparent process of identification and election of candidates or flag bearers, and put mechanisms for managing political differences among the party members. We also agreed that political parties should provide sufficient financial support to their flag bearers, or we can as well call them candidates, to mitigate pressure where elected leaders become indebted and spend most of their time looking for money to pay for the accumulated debts during the campaign season. Number 7, ladies and gentlemen, we also agreed that we need to look into reforming the electoral system. The delegates that were here yesterday recognized that the current electoral system fails to acknowledge the contributions and roles of individuals and leaders who lose elections. It was noted that election winners often invest significant financial resources to secure their victory, leading them to prioritize recovering their expenditures over delivering services once they get into office. This system fosters unhealthy competition, ladies and gentlemen. It encourages violence and manipulation in the quest for votes. The delegates emphasized the need to reform the electoral framework by adopting an inclusive and proportional system that values contributions of all candidates, including those who do not win. Such reforms would reduce excessive spending and promote fairness. Members of Parliament were urged to champion these proposals as part of comprehensive electoral reforms in Parliament. That was the resolution, ladies and gentlemen. Number 8, please bear with me, just a few points to go. Stay with me. Number 8, we agreed that we need to strengthen the intercultural reconciliation. The leaders appreciated the reconciliation and good relationship that existed between Obdingia, Wabamba, and Obsinga. The delegates called upon Toro Kingdom and the Obsinga officials to put in place initiatives for reconciliation, collaboration, and harmony between the two cultural institutions. Number 9, we agreed that we need to empower the youth as peace builders, or we can as well call them peace agents. The leaders acknowledged that youth are often drawn into violence by leaders who exploit financial incentives and manipulation tactics. This leaves the youth vulnerable to making poor decisions under such influence. The meeting urged government and the stakeholders present to empower youth as agents of peace through targeted training and dialogue sessions organized by various institutions. Additionally, they emphasized the importance of involving youth in income-generating activities to foster self-reliance and resilience against such exploitation. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time, thank you for your patience, thank you for lending me your ears. We do appreciate. These are the few notes that we took from yesterday. I hope we all agree with them, but if there's something that wasn't captured, please feel free to raise it and we shall take note. Thank you so much.
One very important aspect that we should include is the aspect of Pan-Africanism. One of the core pillars of NRM is Pan-Africanism. I think we should remind them in our report that in Rwenzori region, let us further inculcate the spirit of Pan-Africanism. All these issues that we're discussing here, you find the Rwenzori has a problem with the Batoro, Bamba, Bundikia. All of them are struggling for recognition, are struggling for that ear from each one of us. If all of us looked at ourselves as Africans, I have heard that one has not been included, Pan-Africanism.
By name is Charles Asimwe. I have my own organization called Chigezi Food and Nutrition Consulting Limited, founded in 2014 for nutrition governance and nutrition for adults. However, since 2017, I've been working for government in OPM and local government as the nutrition governance consultant. Before I start, colleagues, I have some few issues to respond on the session we had, but I will keep them for the document, and if they arise as I present, I will communicate about them. In my summary, as we do for peace, nutrition, and development, I have picked information that we have 3.3 million people in this region. We have 780,000 households which we need to plan for in terms of peace, nutrition, and development. We have 9 local governments higher, but most importantly, 820 parishes, wards, where development should be seen in the next 5 to 10 years, using the parish as an entry point. That one I will stop there. You know what I mean when I say a parish as an entry point, where all development programs should take place, using the parish under pillar 1 of agricultural value chain development, pillar number 2 of infrastructure and community services, pillar number 3 of financial inclusion for only those who need to be financially included, although most people have taken the PDM as the pillar number 3. Then pillar number 4 is where we have our nutrition, where we have primary schools, we have health facilities, we have water services, and all. And in that information, therefore, I've given also the summary that this region has the biggest part of the region. You will rather have the health center force. I have here 80% of the sub-counties in your region. They have access to a secondary school per sub-county. 87% of the parishes have access to a primary school. Then 70% of the households have access to water. I'm mentioning those as a background for development because you cannot develop without some of those drivers. I have also taken with concern the message that cultural leaders, religious leaders, and CSOs should be involved in the drive against malnutrition, because your region, I'm trying to avoid the word Toro because in our UDHS we have Toro, while I hear the word Rwenzori and Toro, so I keep saying your region. So your region, the main issue of nutrition in your region is not food production. I want colleagues to take that. The problem here in this region is not merely food production, food availability, but is an issue of food utilization, especially the mindset change. the behavior change actions in your communique as you write, I propose that you actually be direct. Behavior change communication for improved nutrition for this region is the required component now. You have the food, all your food that you produce in the region is eaten by us in Kampala. The food you produce here goes to the neighbors. The good quality food is taken to the neighbors or to the urban areas in other places, but then for us we eat the food which is not well diversified. And I want also to mention to you that maybe for currently, you may not put that slide, I'm not going to use a lot of it there. Currently, because of the time limitation, currently, the people in this sub-region, you have somehow progressed from your life expectancy that now a person is able to die at 70 years. Which is a good, you should clap for yourselves.
No, from what to
From 54.
when?
In the census of 2014, you are now at 70%. But that's not only are you alone, but also some other sub-regions.
Yeah.
And the reason is, if you want to have longevity in life, you must improve your diet and nutrition. Longevity of a human being, part of it is diet and what? For nutrition. Avoiding accidents, and of course avoiding non-communicable diseases. Now, in terms of programming, I will mention to you that the children who are below 5 years in your sub-region, their brain development, madam, you can put that there is a slide which I have, the brain development. Hey, you have gone away. The brain development of a child will be maximized during the first 1,000 days of life. That is the pregnancy, 9 months, and the first 2 years of life. I am going to mention to you that when the brain is not growing well, and you exceed 2 years of life, your brain remains stunted forever. I wanted that slide to be there. Now, I can mention to you, can you touch your hand? Just do like this. Fold your hand, just one. And then another one, you fold when there are two. Now, when you provide inadequate care, in terms of care practices at home, you provide inadequate food, not well balanced. Food is not healthy, is not safe. You do not provide health services and education services for a child below 2 years. The child's brain will have this size. Now, the one who will do all that I've talked about, well, the brain will grow at the right size. So, of those two brains as told sub-region, the well-developed brain and the poorly developed brain, what would you want? You can now go down to that brain. Down. That one. Back. Now, the one you see in red color is where the parents and the caregiver and that operation did not take interest in the nutrition of the children below the 2 years, and therefore they grow up with a brain whose gray matter is not well distributed, and then the one who has been cared for very well with concern of the parents and the society, they will have that brain where the gray matter is well distributed. NGOs, can you be coherent? Put yourself where you belong. I can quickly mention to you that most of you in nutrition are under Human Capital Development Program, under pillar number 4 of the PDM. Others in agriculture, you are under agro-industrialization, under pillar number 1 of the what? Of the PDM. But you have somebody saying, those things of PDM, for us we are not part. My friend, the issue is coherence. The issue is what? Coherence. Implement and look for gaps and bring them as you implement. The rest one, I said, implement the 7 C's. The 7 what? C's. 1 is the content. Are the intervention that you are providing in your communique, is that content the realistic one? Or it is just going to be on paper? You know, in this country, we are very good on policy development, making statements in workshops, then implementation of what you have done in the workshop ends in the what? The workshop. Another neighbor country, changes the heading and starts implementing. You are making the things today, but on Monday another country will pick them and implement them. For us here, because of the mind of the people and the 54% of the population who are in charge, they are still saying, should we, should not. Number two, context. When I read through your concept note, I was happy. It is conceptualized towards this particular region. So can you implement and address these ones within your context? Number three, are you committed? All of those you have talked about. For me these days when I'm writing for government and non-government, I put there a matrix. Issue, proposed action, by who and when. Everybody is responsible. Fine, nobody will be what? I liked the MP honorable who said that can you identify actors? If there is a recommendation, tag the what? The actor. Otherwise, to remain on paper. Do we have capacity to implement what the resolutions on nutrition issues since they are multi-sector? In terms of the humanities, the human beings, attitudes, knowledge, and skills. Do we have the coalitions? I can see here the whole team. This energy you have here, can you go and use it to address food security and nutrition? And I want to tell you, nutrition is an outcome, it is not an intervention. Those in food production, processing, marketing, water, sanitation, all of you are part of what? Nutrition. But I normally have people saying, now for us as an agency, we don't do nutrition. Nutrition is an outcome, it is not an intervention. So support those interventions which will lead into what? Outcomes. Communicate, and finally, be coordinated. I beg to submit.
So we try to, kind of motivate some of the actors by giving them awards. You can see the speaker is somewhere and journalists, yes. So this is what we are doing. At school, some of the schools that we are supporting 5 schools, they are being able to produce orange flesh sweet potatoes, which is rich in vitamin A, yeah. And of course, you can see the pumpkins here. We are supporting the youth, yeah, in skilling. Then of course the nutrition clinic. Okay, the next these are just, yeah. So these are what we need to reflect on as stakeholders, yeah. Number one, how can we make producers consumers of their own food? Sharif here is going to give a very powerful presentation on how producers, yeah, on how producers are actually, most of the producers could be the people that have children that are stunted. Yeah, a greater proportion of smallholder farmers, yeah, is actually, the greater proportion of Ugandans are actually smallholder farmers, almost 80%. Yeah, so if we make these guys consume their healthy food that they are producing, even before looking at the market, I think we are doing something good. Yeah. Then of course, how can we create food diversity on the plate, same as diversity on the farm? Because we already produce a lot on the farm. How can we have the same translate on the plate? Then of course, food safety issues. But then of course, something that we've been speaking a lot is here. What SPCC strategies, social behavior change communication strategies, can be used to create the ideal food environment, yeah, that would lower stunting and all the other forms of malnutrition. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eric. Yes, we'll begin from there. Diversity on the farm versus diversity on the plate. What could be the problem? Why aren't the people consuming what they are producing? What are some of the hindrances, some of the barriers that affect the uptake of nutritious food? I'm going to invite the Executive Director of KRC, Mr. Mohammed Sharif, who is also a social researcher, but also very passionate about food systems. So, Sharif, over to you.
Thank you very much, Violet, and good morning all. Just happy to be part of you to discuss this important topic on nutrition. I'm not a nutritionist, and what I'm going to discuss is based on experience and my own inspirations and what I've learned in life. But there are many facts and realities that we have really to double check. Charles mentioned a lot, especially when it comes to mismatch between production, or what we call food production, and food consumption. It is a known fact, and it's a paradox, that Rwenzori, or this Toro region, is known as the food basket in the country. Not only in the country, but also in the neighboring countries. A lot of food is being exported from this area, and of course with these statistics, it is showing that we still have a bigger problem. Just 5 years, coming from 40.6% to 38.6%, some people may say, okay, it is insignificant. I will agree with you. The question is, what went wrong? What did we do? There was a lot of interventions, I think you've heard of so many things happening in the region. What went wrong? What narrative were we using? In our old days, those old years, there was a very clear narrative. You produce, and it's only the surplus that goes to the market. We also know because of globalization, because of urbanization, there is increased demand. The narrative changed. That you produce, and only the surplus remains at home. And the word surplus is also relative. In the actual sense, it's not surplus, it's the leftover. That you sell everything, and you have rejects. Let's be polite. You have market rejects. And that is what our babies feed on. And because of globalization, because of urbanization. There are also other realities. I remember when I went with Bernard, you know Bernard very well, 5 years ago, we were in a place called Chongwe in Zambia. And there was a program we're implementing, of course, on organic and trying to produce, healthy food. And we engaged so many other farmers or producers. And of course, one of their achievements was that they are producing for a good market, they are getting very good money. And they were all celebrating, and it was all over, in Zambia, that, producers are now making it. They are selling their produce. For the market, we don't know. For the people probably who are not even relatives. For the people who want to actually live healthy, to live longer. This is where the food was going. Now, after 5 years, we went back to the same place, and they were actually presenting a very big challenge. And what was that challenge? That now the producers are no longer selling their produce, they are eating their own food, and that is a very big challenge. I said, even let me see. I just said, okay, that's very good. For 5 years, the challenge you have presented is actually the major achievement in the project. Because what we're thinking, we are sending that time all our food to the people we don't know somewhere, and we are leaving people, our own children, to starve. And that they called it, what do they call it? A success. And that now, because the people, the farmers themselves are consuming their own organic food, we are calling that one a challenge. Quite unfortunate. I think there is a problem with our narrative. Frankly speaking. The narrative we are using is totally wrong, and this challenge, by the way, Charles will agree with me, it is institutional. That we, either civil society or government, we are just using a wrong narrative to implement the different programs or interventions. Our perception is that when you produce organic food, we have to give it to some other people who are supposed to consume that food. We have even institutionalized it in such a way that we have also organic organizations. They are now in charge of transporting nutrition, good nutrition,
to their world, and they are leaving us, I think I'll be very specific, to this scheme, the black scheme, to just consume the rejects and leftovers.
Even the fish we eat bones.
And with the fish, of course, they will transport all the fish somewhere, and then you get the other bones and the heads and the rest. This is what we feed on. There is a problem with our diet. Yeah? We'll call it snackedness. But I think we need really to look at who are the consumers. I think in the 5 years, we are actually using a wrong narrative. And I'll also be blamed for that. Because the way we looked at consumers, we thought the consumers live in towns and cities. Let us look at the statistic that he has just given us. 80% of the population lives in the rural areas, and they're all smallholder farmers. And we brand them producers. Then we come to the urban people who are 20%, and we are branding them consumers. What a nonsense. Now, those people produce for who? The 20%? And people outside the country? I think there's a dilemma. Because we need really to change this narrative, to start looking at producers as consumers. And this is where we are going to fight this issue called stunting and malnutrition. If people themselves, the producers, they live themselves, they are able to use the better methods, safer methods of producing their own food, with that conviction that the people who are going to consume that food, then I think will be in a very good direction. But the moment people still think that healthy food is for a certain color, then we have a big problem. That is why when we try to train farmers in better methods like agroecology and organic, once they lose the market, they abandon. Why do they abandon? Because they were not producing for themselves. They were producing it for some people whom we are not related with. And because they are living even now, they are 90, they are 100 years, they can live for that long. Yeah. But because we are the ones feeding them, and we are actually dying at 50, at 60, because we don't have such a conviction ourselves. We need to change this narrative, making producers, consumers of their own food. And what does it really mean? We need a multidimensional approach. We need to get people in production to be convinced that actually as I'm training, like agriculture extension, as I'm training people to feed on their own food, not for the market. We should change the narrative that it is only the surplus. It is only the surplus, and surplus is relative. It can be 20 tons, it can be 1 ton, it can be 10 kilograms. It is only the surplus that should go and feed those people and people like us who stay in the urban. But the priority should be with the household. So that should be the narrative that we actually trying to front. But again, when it comes to issues of messaging, and I want to be very specific here, how do we promote healthier diets? If we present food as food, people will not understand. And I will just give you an example where the government made a decision that schools should start feeding on milk. You know what people say? They want to create a market for their own milk. You know? It's true. They have a lot, so the message is not, it was not very clear. It is what we call a composite meal, message. That even if you don't eat any other food, so long as you feed on milk, you can get all nutrients that you require in your body. So they never had a nutritional approach towards that policy guideline. They never explained to the people why the children need the milk. In the studies that we conducted, it was shown that milk is the main driver of nutrition. At one time, Busheng was higher in terms of stunting than Toro. But because of the improvement in the dairy sector, milk became more accessible, more affordable, and it dropped the statistic drastically. I think Charles. Exactly. So we need really to think about which are those drivers, and also have a proper message so that it can be able to change the mindset of the people. The other issue is also connecting food to health. Now people, when I think 10 years back, people did not actually even know that why they should be feeding on indigenous vegetables. Those things were not, they were all, when you're born and you're eating those things when you're poor. You associate all those foods to know that class. You see somebody eating dodo, sweet, banana to barugaji. Enjagi, banana family na kalama. Ente karugaji gabsa. By karayo, ako what they are eating. Now, the same men who are saying that, they are saying that if you eat this thing, no gonna foka kanako wa equatorial gene. I think you understand. Even if you have the money, and you have money to buy meat, you will come back to eat it. People never knew about mushrooms. What is juice? What is the name of that juice with the mushroom? Kitusi. If you talk about mushrooms that time, people do not understand the purpose of mushroom. But now people are going, I see many ladies at my store, but they're coming to buy it. Kitusi, I don't know why. Maybe you know. So issues of health being connected to food can change a narrative. Now, when it comes to issues of diabetes, hypertension, they are all saying that this food will be able to help. And actually, that's why we have an overwhelming demand of vegetables in Kabunde. 10 years back, we never had those vegetables. We started that campaign under the concept of organic by trying to really sensitize people that actually food is medicine. And actually that has changed at least that narrative. We are seeing more restaurants, preparing indigenous food because everybody wants to be healthier, to be powerful, and all that is connected to the same.
Wonderful.
So messaging is very, very important. So how we present issues, and if we want to address that, we need to change our way of how we communicate.
So where did we go wrong on this? One of the speakers yesterday made a statement, when did the rain start beating us? So where is the problem? Have the leaders done their role? What is lacking? So I'm going to invite Bernard Wambale, who is also going to highlight and speak about the role of the leaders in this. Bernard, we are happy to have you.
Thank you so much, Violet. Thank you, Sharif, for the powerful messaging. Sharif is my teacher. I'm also his teacher somewhere, so we keep on sharing this subject. But ladies and gentlemen, I want you to pay attention to these four things. Many of us are programming out there, especially the leaders, and they're talking about food security projects, food security. But what is this food security? Actually, we've gone wrong by giving a wrong definition to food security. Food security basically means these four things. Availability. Do we have food? Do we have it? Is it there? Access. Are people able to access food? You can have food, especially in most of your homes. You have a lot of food in your gardens and the food is not coming to the plate. So people have food available but they're not accessing it. And then the third issue is utilization. This is where we have gone wrong. Some people here have food available, they are able to access it, but your bodies cannot use that food. And I'm going to give you the version why your bodies are actually failing to use the food that we're actually consuming. And then lastly, the sustainability issue. Have food available, have it accessible, your body should utilize it, meaning it has nutrients and all this, and then you stabilize that over the years. That is the definition. So if you have a project called food security, whatever it is, and is not addressing these 4 things, go and revise. Okay? Let us look a little bit at the context in our region. This is the context in our region. I hope you see these kids. I don't know whether you are able to see.
Yes, we are.
So in our region, if you go to Buhinga, you'll see these kids here, severely malnourished, in Toro, where food is just everywhere. This is in our hospitals. Go to Buhinga. I worked in Kaganda Hospital, and these were my clients then, a few years ago. Look at this mother. This is a mother, but she has 4 kids. Both the mother and the 4 kids are all severely malnourished. In Toro, where there is food, where there is abundance, what are we talking about? Look at these kids. Micronutrient deficiency, the father and the kids, you cannot tell whether there is, and this is Toro, where there is food. Ladies and gentlemen, what are we talking about here? And these are our children. So I really wanted now, I didn't want to go back to stunting because my colleagues have talked about it. I want to take you a little bit somewhere where you get annoyed because Charles has explained this. I'll give you the notes, but I don't want to repeat this. Now, Violet, the question you've given me, I want to respond to it using the food safety narrative. This has been talked about. I want to pay attention to this photograph. Recently, I and my colleagues at KRC were visiting schools. And this is one of the schools. We met these 2 kids, and this lunchtime. And they have a lunch box. But in that lunch box, I hope you can be able to see what is inside there. It's water and banana, and the only ingredient in that banana was salt. And this child has to get a 1st grade. But the only meal they are having is matoke and salt inside there. Secondly, who told us that we have to eat portion beans in school? Where did we get this narrative from? And we are busy talking about diverse diets. Where did we go wrong? Why aren't schools diversifying? This is the food we eat. Now in Toro, if you don't eat that food there, then it is a trouble. Now I want us to quickly look at this narrative. Chemicals. The leaders who are here, allow me to take you through a little bit of this. Our food system has been broken down. Every vegetable you find out there, people are using heavily highly hazardous pesticides. And we are watching. And by the way, research shows us that more than half of the pesticides we are using in this country cannot be used in countries where they are made. We are talking about chemicals, and our leaders are silent because you want taxes. You cannot just do that. You can't. Now let me just show you a little bit of what is happening. So we are claiming that they are pests and whatnot and want to treat them and all this, but I want you to look at this photograph. We are talking about chemicals. I want you to observe these 3 men. This gentleman is spraying his tomatoes, which is okay. But if you observe the shirt he's wearing, it's a torn shirt. Do you observe that? But he's carrying a pump, and the pump is having a chemical, and the chemical has overflown. You can see that white stuff. This is the chemical. And then the gentleman is busy sweating. And all that is actually entering in his skin. But this is a highly hazardous pesticide. And now this gentleman is going to produce the tomatoes, and government, you're telling them, please produce more and you sell. You get the point? So they will sell those tomatoes and get 1 million shillings, and you think they have gotten money, only to come to the hospital and you bring us that money. That's why your communities are extremely poor. Because all the money you are making, you're bringing it to the hospital, and we are treating you highly. Do you get my point? Look at this gentleman here. He's spraying, but look at this is a pump, and this is the chemical bouncing back to his nose, his ears, his mouth, because he's not putting on a protective gear on his face. And leaders, you are watching these guys in your communities, and they are not giving guidance.
Do the leaders know?
By the way, do you know these things? Okay, that's why we're here. Look at this gentleman. Just look at this gentleman.
They want in our farms.
Okay, in your farms. Look at this gentleman. He's spraying, and I want you to observe that this is a water source. You observe that. This is a stream of water, and the gentleman is spraying vegetables, but the guy is half naked. He's not wearing a shirt. And he's busy spraying, you are producing vegetables, but the guy is naked. And this is a highly hazardous pesticide. And the leaders are busy there at a funeral. 5 of you are making a speech and you're talking about PDM. Every one of you, the MP PDM, LOC5 PDM, LOC1 PDM. What went wrong with you? Don't you have content to give to people? Let one of you speak about PDM and other people talk development. Okay, let's observe this. We just did a study just to understand what is in our food. So that is the question we're answering from research. I want you to observe this. So, tomatoes have been produced, and the neighbor is already consuming, but you see that these tomatoes have a white kind of stuff. This is a chemical, but someone is already doing what? Eating it. And these days you see that in the markets, people come with tomatoes from their gardens and they come and mix the chemical from the market. Don't we have market leaders here? Don't you see these things? What went wrong? We are not doing what we are supposed to do, and I'll keep mentioning it. Look at this. We asked ourselves another research question. What is in our glasses? I want you to observe this. This colleague is spraying and the water stream is right there. Don't you see them in your communities? And then the neighbors are actually fetching water right from there. Look at this. This is a whole stream. Someone is spraying there, and the person is already drinking the water there. And then you have these farmers, after actually spraying, they get the buckets and go and wash them from a water source. And the leaders are watching this. Shame upon us.
Shame.
Look at this. Ladies and gentlemen, these are not photos from Rwanda. People who are in Cameroon for photo, you must have seen me and Sharif and our colleagues at KRC do a lot of data collection on this. Now, I want you to observe this. Chenjojo. I hope the leaders of Chenjojo are here. This is cassava drying on the road. Can you imagine this? And the LC1, LC3, whoever, you are passing there and you're seeing food on tarmac and you're just watching. Which kind of leaders are you?
Some of it is their food.
You must resign. Okay, I remember that. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so colleagues, I get a little bit embarrassed when I see some of you here and I visit your homes and you see cassava drying on top of a rusted iron sheet in an LOC's place, LOC1's home. But this is cassava and this is a rusted sheet and this is where food is. Food for human beings.
Sorry, Bernard.
Yes,
Chair, before you leave the tarmac,
yes, please.
Expound a little more on it. Why shouldn't we dry our food on the tarmac?
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
All right, so let me a little bit go to the science. You see this is tarmac?
Yes.
Chenjojo, Chegregwa, coming to Poto, Kasese. And this is, now you can imagine this photograph. It is not a little bit clear, but this is maize poured on a whole lane of tarmac. That is maize on our road here. And the leaders are driving on those roads mysteriously. And by the way, in front of that there is a traffic man. What kind of nonsense is this? And then a traffic police is actually arresting someone and they pay 2,000. But there is this criminal here.
No, how about the tar?
You get that? And then now what is the problem? The problem is, ladies and gentlemen, whenever you travel to Kampala or wherever you are traveling, when you're in your vehicles, those SC vehicles of yours, let us listen, we are finishing. We are finishing.
Please.
Okay, sorry. So when you are driving on the roads, when you are driving on these roads and it's a sunny day, you see tarmac, what we call mirage. You remember mirage?
Yes.
You see the tarmac shining. It means that the tarmac is burning. And remember, tarmac is tar.
The tar, yes.
That is a chemical that they use to make tarmac. It's called the tar.
Yeah.
And the human being who consumes the tar, you are doomed. Because that is part of the cancerous agents we have on earth.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, you are putting maize there to dry, and the tarmac is melting, and is going to the human food. No wonder, I and Charles, whenever we are at the Cancer Institute, we see our names, Mwambari, Kure, Tukatushime, Honorable X. What are we talking about? We are eating a lot of tarmac. Police, you are watching. LOC5s, you are watching. RDCs, you are watching. And this is happening in our area. Which kind of nonsense is this? We cannot maintain this kind of thing. Police, leaders, my role here was to tell you your role. Arrest these fools. Put them in cells and people will change. Because we are killing society because of this kind of nonsense. And then, ladies and gentlemen, as my time comes to the end, I want you to observe this kind of practices in your communities. And the LOC 1, LOC 5, LOC 3, you watch this kind of, this was the wedding. This was the wedding, and this is the route to the wedding, and this is maize. So everybody who came to this wedding was driving on top of that maize. Yes, this is the parking space. This is the parking space, these are the tents, and this is maize there. And LOC 5 came to give a speech, the LOC 3 gave a speech after driving on human food. Which kind of nonsense is this? Currently in the schools where you guys are, in your communities, people are using paraffin in preserving beans for human beings. Did you know that? And you are busy going there for, is it the education sector you are doing monitoring? What are you monitoring? Children are eating paraffin in beans. Imagine a child of P5 eating paraffin from P5 to P7. 90 days a term, 2 plates per day. How do you expect your girls to give birth without a C-section? And you are busy writing reports which don't add up. Some of you have to resign. You just have to resign. I have also seen, ladies and gentlemen, I have seen my colleagues at KRC will bear with me. And I've told the leaders of Fort Portal I'm happy they are improving greatly. People are currently using transformer, LOC5s who are here and RDCs, and the chief administrative officers who are here. I want to give you an assignment when you leave this place. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to request you, when you go back to your districts, immediately reach there, go and close all the washing bays which are at the riverside. How dare you, RDC LC5 leader, you go and wash your vehicle when you even are aware that that vehicle has petroleum products and you wash it in a river where your electorate are fetching water. Which kind of humanity is this? Do you get my point? Yeah. I have seen many of you or many of your districts giving licenses to people who are dealing with food wrongly. For example, someone is operating a restaurant, but the restaurant is located next to a saloon or next to a welding plant. What kind of individuals are you? Do you know the laws? Do you understand the laws? Do you know the regulations? You are giving someone a license to operate a restaurant, but the next door there is a welding, or the next door there is a saloon. Why don't you do zoning of businesses? And you know this land is for saloons, this land is for food, the other food. I mean, what went wrong, ladies and gentlemen? We need to do something. If we don't do it, we shall talk and things never happen. Let me also tell you this. I have told it to my colleagues, Kabarole and Portfoto and Kasese. We have meat regulations. Every meat that comes to a butcher must be what? Stamped. Not so? To show that it has been inspected. Now, we have learned now over the years. We've been doing a lot of studies with Sharif. I'm finishing now. People who are who handle these stamps have given them to P3 dropouts in the villages where you come from. So now the meat is being stamped by a P2 dropout to stamp the meat stamped already. And we are busy discussing these subjects, but we are not busy looking at where we went wrong.
Wait a minute. The one stamping is...
Yes, the person stamping is a P3 dropout because the person who is supposed to stamp has given them the stamp that please I cannot be at that time, please do what? The stamping. That's what the problem is. Just maybe a little bit to appreciate the photographs. Everybody who cooks food in a polythene bag commits murder. Every human being who cooks food in a polythene bag commits murder. Father, you need to get off people from sacraments because of these kind of things. So all these are problems, ladies and gentlemen, that we have in the region. I just wanted to show you this and you appreciate it. And all this, and so Dr. Violet, thank you so much, colleagues. there is one problem that we have now, something called food waste and loss. Many of you, ladies and gentlemen, you embarrass us. Whereas our children are getting started, whereas other children don't have food, many of us throw food. You serve food, you see a human being and you think they are leaders, and they serve food and they cannot eat it. Every time you leave food on a plate, you are causing trouble to a person who didn't have it. One tomato, producing one tomato, one piece of tomato, you use 3 liters of water, one tomato like this. Producing one orange or one lemon, you need 50 liters of water to produce that. Every time you throw away one orange, remember you have thrown 50 liters of water, the labor that was used, everything that was used to produce that tomato goes to waste. So ladies and gentlemen, have you understood your role? Have we understood our role? Go and teach people these things. Go and execute the existing laws. Go and create ordinances that are relevant to this subject. Start allocating money in your budgets to cater for these things. Can you imagine in this region we have less than 10 nutritionists who will be teaching you these things? Don't you see how eloquent I am? Haven't you understood?
Yes.
I mean, don't you need more people like me?
Yes.
Like my senior colleagues here?
Yes.
This is what we need. Give us employment and come and support you. If you don't do that, you are doomed. Thank you so much, colleagues.
Thank you very much, Bernard. Bernard has really taken us to that place when the rain started beating us. I think we are there. And Sharon is going to crown it all. I don't know if it's an issue of the triple burden of malnutrition, which actually even affects us as adults. I don't know what that is, but Sharon is going to tell us. Sharon, please.
I'm the only lady among these
Three bulls.
So I'm afraid the bulls may Let me run away for a moment. A very good afternoon to all of us. My name is Nalunkuma Sharon. I come from the central, but I'm now here in the Toro region. It's very contentious. I'm very happy that this retreat for leaders is having a platform for nutrition.
Yeah.
And nutrition is an outcome as you know it. So like we've heard all from our colleagues here, I just want to re-emphasize just a few things. How many of us know our nutrition status?
We know it's HIV status.
How many of us know our nutrition status? So when they talk about people who are stunted, they talk about people who are obese. How many of us know where we stand? So that is a question I can leave in the parking lot. As you live here, you may forget everything you've learned. At least be the primary beneficiary of this information. Go and check yourself. So that before you teach the community, before you go to enforce the policy, you know where you stand. You can see all of us here, just seated up here, we really know where we belong, and that's why we have the capacity to share the little that we have. Charles shared something they call the double burden. I beg to have your attention just for a minute.
Thank you, Asimwe. Thank you.
Okay, so quickly, allow me just share with you something very, very important for the child at home, for your grandchild at home. So now we know we already have a problem. We have children who are stunted, even us as adults who may be obese, who may be having hidden hunger. You may be here thinking you're healthy because you have the weight, but you have hidden hunger, and it's also malnutrition. So I have some tips here that I came with. I'm a practicing nutritionist, and I'm currently working with KRC in Chaka, refugee settlement. But my experience is beyond that. I support to treat malnutrition as I offer relative information for the community. I thought this would be very important. It would be quite absurd that you left here without knowing how to assess for nutrition. So we have these steps. I think at the health center usually they have even the weighing scale and the height board. But the bare minimum is this, what can be used in the community. So this step is really colored, and this is for the children because the children are most prone to malnutrition. This step is colored in 3. We have the, maybe someone can help me pass around the tapes. You may forget everything, but please don't forget this.
What's that?
This is, yes, today we are going to learn what this is. What is it?
You should start with honorable.
I should start with you.
Yours is white.
Okay, can you bring the one white one? Okay, so as they are distributing the tapes, this tape has 3 colors. We have the red, yellow, and green.
No, this is white.
Yours is white.
So the white one, just a moment. So this one is small, it's for children below 5 years. And we start from 6 months. Why do we start from 6 months? Like Sharif emphasized, children below 6 months should do what? Breastfeed and only breast milk for the first 6 complete months. So once the child is 6 months, they are more prone to malnutrition because the breast milk is no longer enough. So that means you and I, you as a parent, you as a grandparent, you as a leader, we need to be aware how to assess for malnutrition. Because the truth is that we already have the problem in Toro, right? So what we're handling the problem is solving what is there as we plan for the prevention. So we offer curative and preventive strategies. So you have to assess for malnutrition. This step, it has an arrow here. There's an arrow, those who have that, there's an arrow here that indicates that 0 point. And this side, it continues, there's an arrow this side. So I wish we don't have a child here. All of you, we don't have children.
No.
Okay, so I will presumptively assume this is my child. So this step measures the arm of the child. So it measures the less active arm. If the child is right-handed, we shall measure the left. If the child is left-handed, we shall use the right. Why do we measure the less active arm? Because we measure the less active. Usually the active arm is thinner than the less active. So once you know the exact situation, this step is used to measure the nutrition situation rapidly in the community. Maybe there's a situation of starvation for a week. There's been adjustment in the food diets because of food security. Like my colleagues have mentioned, you didn't have food this week because the pockets were dry, the children are affected. So you quickly assess your child at home or your grandchild and know when to make a referral for immediate action. By the way, if we don't do this on a continuous basis, we get to stunting. So this is where stunting is prevented. When the child gets malnourished, immediately refer for help. If this child is not supported, the child end up getting sick and sick and sick. Before you know it, you're stunted. So when you have the tape, so I can have your eyes here. So the tape is like this, and the child's arm, you will get support from the mother, and if this is the less active arm, they'll put it at right angle. Put it at right angle, and you identify the tip of the child's arm. We want to get the mid-upper arm circumference. And that is a traditional method that has always been there for quickly assessing for malnutrition. We get the tip of the arm and the lower tip, and we want to find the mid. So since the children have shorter arms, you put the tape right here. So this point which has the mark forms a 0. You put where the tip is. So this tip will be at the arrow, and the child's arm, when you run the tape, it will really be enough for the child's arm. So where it ends, for example, the child's arm is at 22. Assumably the child up to the tip is 22. We get the mid of 22 will be what? Sorry? Are we all okay or some are? We are okay. So that the mid of 22 will be 11. So quickly, you put a mark at where the 11 point is. So imagine 11 is here. Then this big window that you see here, you could have it open. Can you open that window? There's a reading window we have. So that window is the one you put where you've marked off the mean. And once you put there, legeza mkono wa mtoto. So when the mkono is legeza, when the mkono is like this, the muscles are tough. So it has to be free so that you get the actual circumference. So gently you will wrap the tape around the child. You see, I'm supporting where the mid is. You gently roll the tape around the child's arm. So if the child was the microphone, your arm is bigger. So you gently have it around and you push this through there is a virgin window. It's like a slit, we call it slit or virgin window. It's very tight. So you pass the tape through like this. Yeah? And you'll be able to, someone is laughing because I said virgin. So you pass the tape like this. It's a bit tough when the tape is still new. And gently, you'll be able to read through the window. So now, we don't need you to read the number. We want you as a community leader to read the color. Just tell us the color. Once it's red or yellow, please refer the child for assistance. Once it's red or yellow, please refer and the health workers will take it up from there. So in the community, we have VHTs. So this here it is reading. You read where the arrow is. The microphone needs attention. Okay, so I wish if somebody had a child here, but that's okay. That's also an area for us to realize that if you're a mother here and you have a breastfeeding child, you left the child at home but came for a workshop, that child is missing out on breastfeeding.
You all know the profile of Honorable Alex Rubunda. I will not talk about him.
Yesterday, there are many discussions that transpired. And people were referring to this city. This is your city. It's not for people who live here in Fort Portal. This is your regional city. Please reflect on that. If you don't have an address in Fort Portal, from today, start working that out. Since we are making resolutions. So I think we shall have one of the resolutions and say, the leaders of the region have agreed that they must have presence in one way or another in this beautiful Fort Portal tourism city. We need the Musinga to have his palace. We need the Mundingia to have like they are doing in Kampala. So why are you not thinking that way? So we must have a bigger vision that is beyond the small confines that surround us, because this is an international asset. So I will keep repeating that. It is an international asset. Everybody throughout the world has got a right to come and live here and do business. So I hope that you have understood that very well. Now, what does this require? Of course, at every level, we need to have long-term focused leaders. Because we can't build a city through short term. I have been talking to many people out there. I was with the speaker in Kagote, and people were asking me about Saka Road. They want tarmac there and then. And they said, yes, whether we like it or not, the tarmac will be there. Because we have a university, government university. We have now a military division, over 10,000 soldiers. That's big business there. We have also Katojo prisons. So you look at those three, there is no way how government can fail to plan for tarmac. But it's a matter of time. So we have to be honest with people for them to understand the city we want. So a vision is something big, it is huge. We're talking about 100 years. In this hall where we are today, there are those who will come 100 years after us, and they will read about us. So whatever preoccupies me today is how will those who come 100 years, what will they remember me for? So a leader, you must leave a legacy. You know me, yesterday we were discussing, but I raised a point and I said, meetings of Ugandans, whenever Ugandans meet, what do we discuss? You can imagine the whole of this morning, we have been discussing problems. Actually, if you are not careful, you may have to go for mental therapy. Because the problems are overwhelming. You know, what type of people are we? How can we fail on the basics? Because for me, the life that you hold is not accidental. And that means you must plan for that life. And the planning and visioning is not academics, spiritual. We are spiritual beings. So we should be able to think ahead, visualize, and work towards the ideal. So for me, one of the things that I said to myself are those standards. First of all, I decided to hate bad things. I don't like bad life. I don't want to go and fetch water carrying a gel can. I find that terrible.
With the equalizer.
Huh? Imagine going to carry water on your head in this modern era. I cannot imagine using 3 stones to cook. I can't believe that people are using 3 stones to cook. Of course, now everybody will be wondering and say, this guy, does he live here in Fort Portal or Toro? But how can I find ancient technology, Stone Age technology being applied in this modern time? So anybody who is in this room, if you go back to your home, or to your relative's home or your mother's home, and they are still using 3 stones to cook, you have a big problem. You shouldn't go to heaven. Seriously. Why should you go to heaven when you have let your parents continue with Stone Age technology? Didn't you go to school? Haven't you been exposed? Haven't you moved to places? What do you learn? What do you copy? How dare you allow 3 stones to be used for cooking? How dare? So you know, I begin by hating. So I hate 3 stones. So whenever I find 3 stones, I chase them. I say, that's not standard. So there are standards that we must build. And you build by hating the bad things. You know, the propensity to change and transform, there has to be that, that momentum, that force that makes you really catapult. But you cannot create transformation when you are hobnobbing with mediocrity. You can't be a transformer when you are friendly with mediocrity, with low standards. So mediocrity is about you accepting the lower status of life and you think it is normal. And the moment you put that in your mind, then you live with it, you love it, and you be it. So how do you change? How do you transform society? As a leader, you transform society by looking at the best of the best and you aim for that. And that's why here in Fort Portal, I'm talking about smart city, smart people, smart technology. Smart people, smart city, smart technology. So that is the ideal. And we have to work towards that. So we sat and we are saying, why is it that we are not producing the human capital that fixes where could be the problem? So the problem has been that the mindset of Ugandans, they think to succeed you must have a degree. They have less confidence when it comes to technical skills. But societies are built by technicians. Innovations come with technicians. So that's why my preoccupation is that we have to technically skill this wastage we are seeing of the youth population. We must skill them. And I'm not just here talking that preach what you think, but me, I'm a doer. What I don't like is sounding vulnerable. You know, when you are a leader, you should never look vulnerable before the people. A leader, you have to feel that strength and you gain the confidence where the community has to believe in you and where you are taking them. So when we started in 2002, I'll just conclude a little bit as I'm winding up. When we came to begin research, and actually today, when I was seated there, I was just loving what I'm seeing because we are driven by data. We are in this hall and we are analyzing data. We are looking at the statistics. We are looking at figures. So it means that we have improved. We are not into the narratives. We are now looking at facts. And there is no society that can grow when it is not driven by science, data, the data analytics. So you've got to fall in love with data. So you can't keep people. You should leave the field for the religious leaders. That is their domain. Where they are telling us to go to heaven, that is their domain. But now us, the leaders, we can't talk to the communities as if we are promising the world after they have died. We have to fix the world here. So when we got the Mountains of the Moon University in 2002, KRC, we said we must invest and we welcomed the university. As a young guy, I knew what this university will do in the future. So we had to even pay for the first staff of the university for 6 months using KRC reserve money. So I wasn't in politics, but I was looking at the future.
This presentation has 5 key things that leaders should know and 5 key things that leaders should do in the context of sustainable, resilient city. I'll summarize them. Number 1, I think now I'm remaining with about 10 minutes, so we'll use each point for 1 minute. Number 1, each leader should know that the cities that we have currently are actually not resilient. The international development agenda at the global level, we have what we call, many people know, sustainable development goals, the 17 of them. 193 countries globally have assigned to those sustainable development goals. Only 3, and actually one of them is the Vatican. Meaning that at the global level, we look at development. When you come to Africa, still we have our ambitious Agenda 2063, a 50-year plan. But when you come to the Europe, America, and other regions, also they have their development plans. What is interesting when you look at all those, each one of them have particular interests. Especially, for example, the one you find here, the American one, which was publicized just during the time of campaigns as of September 2024. One of the interests is having control in the international order of things across all the different areas. So, you need to know that when it comes to Uganda, still NDP 3, that is the National Development Plan 3, which is actually getting out almost now in 2.4. It is designed also to promote development through cities. Sustainable Development Goal 11 specifically is about cities. But when you look at all those plans, even including others that I have not mentioned which are here, the design, unfortunately, leads to some of the problems that we have. A research was conducted this year across all the African cities to identify problems. 17 problems were identified, also they are listed here. But among the problems that were listed or identified in that research report, actually this research report was very comprehensive. It covered 107 countries. It had different, so you can be able to access it. But the key things that it was found, basically at the conclusion, is that the cities are not resilient. For resilient cities, actually, we need, for example, have people. We need to see that the cities are generating revenue. We need to see that, for example, the cities are environmental sensitive, and also cities are technological advanced. So that is one take-home message. What leaders should know, that the resilience of cities is unfortunately not there as of now. Without, of course, mentioning that these problems are actually affecting all the 10 cities that have been created. They happen to have benefited from doing research under the Total Development Network that focused on governance in these newly created cities, 10 of them. And importantly, I found that these problems across these different cities are actually there, they are very key. So now we go to the second point, what the leaders should know. Number 2, in the interest of time, that this process of development is actually using what we call the Eurocentric view of development, rather than the Afrocentric view of development. I'll just use an example of a research which was conducted and published in a book called The Geography of Thought. They compared the thinking of Westerners and the thinking of Easterners, the Asians. And they found that actually there is a difference in the thought process. And that thought process influences how we perceive things, what we consider, and remember the Easterners are more so much linked with the Africans. So, for example, if you just made a demonstration, a tank, and in the tank there is water and there is fish. If you call, for example, an African, what did you see? The response will be different based on that research from if you call, for example, a Western and say, what did you see? That is in the thought process. The thought process influences the planning that we do at city level. If you look at the current planning that we are doing, especially for the cities, we are using the Eurocentric view of development. And the Eurocentric view of development, unfortunately, focuses on one, processed materials that you process. That's why we have the GDP, the gross domestic product. How many goods are you producing? And two, it is focusing on money. That's why the money has become money, and actually it is causing issues of mental health. And it's going to come much so. When you look at the development in the developed countries, the money is there by standards globally. But the problem is that people are stressed. There are more rates of committing suicide in the developed countries than in Africa, for example. The reason is that they have taken a wrong approach to development. And that development is actually not inclusive in nature. It only focuses on material money. But remember, just let me give you an example. When it comes to the African aspects, perception, thought process of development, what made someone to be prosperous and successful in the African context? It was based on the natural resources that the person had, how much land, and the land, how many natural resources that are found on that land. And that was able to attract how many women the man had. So, also, how many children, and consequently, the other rich cows and others in our context. That was the measure of development, basically hinged on the natural resources. But now, when you look at the Euro-centric view, it doesn't consider that. And we have also taken it up that that is not the measure of development, deliberately designed for that purpose. Number three, what the leaders should know is that the design of development is intentionally exclusionary. By exclusionary is that we have actually leveled ourselves on the history of colonialism. Colonialism has influence, generally, on the African continent. People have read history. Up to now, we are still in the same situation. But what they want to mention is that, I'm not someone who condemns or laments about colonialism. It is because we have not had our own development model that we have put forward such that we can be able to front. So whenever someone comes with another development model, then we accept. And unfortunately, that has been entered.
2 minutes to wind up.
Okay. That has been also, that has actually influenced the city planning process.
I'm delighted to be part of this discussion, which is both crucial and very relevant towards the challenges and opportunities that we have as a region. And it's actually a crucial topic that I'm happy the organizing team included on the program, because balancing ecosystem is not only a local or regional a need, but it's also a global agenda. As the professor has just mentioned, smart cities and resilient cities is actually Sustainable Goal 11. So I commend KRC for moving in line with the global agenda for this retreat. I will first, I'll start by reminding us all that more than 50% of the current population in the world lives in cities, more than 50%. And actually the trend is continuing to grow. And it is projected that by 2050, we will have close to 70% of the world's population living in cities or in urban areas. So what does this mean? It comes with a lot of implications. You have to think in terms of our environment. What does it mean to our environment, to our future, and to our systems as a whole? I'll just talk about a few things. First of all, we know that there are increasing urban disasters. Urban disasters which are climate related. Yeah? They are coming from as a result of the changing climate conditions. So as urban environments grow, you have more settlements coming up, you have more infrastructures, you have, but these are all expanding at the expense of green spaces. So by 2050, if we have 70% of the population living in the cities, I don't know if we will be left with any green spaces. And these green spaces, they are the ones that are leading to this resilience that the professor is talking about. So as I stress, I also emphasize that our cities currently are not resilient enough. That's why we are facing a number of disasters, especially there's a lot of floods happening in our urban areas. We recently were responding to an emergency in Toroko. It was very bad. So why are these disasters happening? It's because the cities are not prepared, they are not resilient, they are vulnerable. Because as the population grows, it means that what used to be a wetland in the city or in an urban environment, this wetland is no longer there. It is replaced by a factory, it's replaced by something else. And you do not have any structures, any systems to absorb the excessive rainwater. And with the changing climate, we expect more erratic rainfalls. You expect more floods to happen.
And this retreat has been organized by KRC, Uganda, in collaboration with the Creations Forum Africa and with support from USAID. United States Agency for International Development. We do appreciate their support. There are other partners that have worked hand in hand with KRC, and they are all here with a lot of support. Between today and yesterday, we had a clear objective of this Kasunga retreat. One was to generate consensus on regional interventions to promote peace and quality leadership during and after the 2026 general elections. Yesterday, a lot of aspects were discussed on promoting peace, especially in relation to the 2026 elections. And the leaders have been able to attest to that, and they have gone ahead to sign in agreement that they are going to promote that particular aspect today, tomorrow, and even after the elections. Today, we have also looked at the aspect of nutrition, and what came out was that we are realizing a lot of startedness in our region and in Uganda, and the statistics were showing that 54% of our population is actually stunted, and only 46% is upright. And the presentations that have been given to us actually focused our attention to the 54%. That when you look at this violence that is escalating in communities, when you look at people taking the law into their hands, when you look at people doing negatives, promoting negatives, when you look at people promoting aspects on social media, speech hate or hate speech, there are so many other aspects, antagonizing programs, it is as a result of stuntedness. So this is an aspect that this retreat is picking out, and we need to address it. The other objective was to jointly harness the role of actors in propagating peaceful, sustainable, and environmentally friendly development amidst the growing urbanization and human population. And these are the presentations that you found moving on. I think from the members, we have been able to know that as a city, we need to plan for resilience. We shall not be there if we cannot actually be a resilient city. What are those modalities and interventions that we need to put up? And many suggestions have come up, which you have also been able to listen to. We have also looked at jointly harnessing efforts to deter and manage conflict, malnutrition, and stunted-ness among the children at household level and community level. In that same regard, the members attested that even our academic standards in different schools are going down just because learners in schools are not having meals. And that has been a gap that we need to address. So, going to Atenyi, Tukusima, Abuko Izire, and allow me just to give you a snapshot of our today's closure. We are honored that today we have Honorable Kano Tom Butime to close our session, and besides him spearheading development work, he's also a man who loves Toro so much. Yesterday evening we had the Achoto Mukairizi, the fireplace conversation, which culminated into a lot of discussions regarding youth involvement programs, regarding how security forces and other entities can always embrace development aspects, but also work towards achieving peaceful elections, and also involvement of other government agencies, including Uganda Human Rights Commission and the Electoral Commission. These tools, they are tools of engaging youth leaders and other cultural leaders also came out. One thing that I should not miss saying is that yesterday there was hope of further improving the collaboration between the cultural institutions. An aspect came out from one of the leaders that as Rwenzori Kingdom and the Toro Kingdom, we need to harness the aspect of peaceful coexistence. And one of the resolutions was that these cultural institutions should endeavor through the Toro Elders Forum and other Elders Fora to engage the cultural leaders so that they can always be able to work together. And that is going to lead to harmonious development. Allow me to, at this point in time, invite one of the key persons who is supposed to take us through the key actions. Besides, we had a communique that was presented in the morning. So she's going to take us through the actions of this retreat, and thereafter the chairperson of KRC will invite you to close this retreat, and then we'll go for lunch. So Mr. Sharif Mohammed, kindly come and take over the audience. So he's eagerly waiting to hear from you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon once again, society, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to salute you for you being with us for the 2 days, but you have been so engaging, and what I can say that you are really knowledgeable and you have passion for this regional development. I just have an appeal. I know there are quite a number of issues that have emerged. We have talked about problems and problems and problems, and some people have also mentioned that they are getting gray hair because of problems. My appeal is that coming next year, can we stop lamenting and become solution providers? We should be providing solutions other than keep talking about the problems that will never end. We need actually to start co-creating, to talk among each other, to look at the available options, the technology, the experience that we have, to start looking at how we are going to be able to fix the bolts. And this is how we are able to fix many things. And come next year with another Kasunga, we should be celebrating. We should be looking at achievements that have taken us for 12 months. So it's important that we have to start thinking of other solutions, but also for people who talked about policy, we need also to look at appropriate policies or poor policies that we can be able to bring on board that can be able to support us in implementing what we are supposed to do. As KRC, and I want really to put this forward to the Honorable.
I'm sorry to interject you. I wish that we could, each district, you pick out these commitments, then KRC can do a follow-up with your councils such that we get them implemented. So it is my view that really we do that rather than waiting for another Kasunga.
No, this is going to come. I've not yet communicated about our communique, but what I was actually trying to say that there are also proposals. We are going to be supporting the process. And as I was going to say that, of course, KRC and other partners will be also presenting a proposal to the council. Because when we talk about the city and, of course, bring the two discussions together, we are talking about sustainable food system. Again, you're talking about a resilient city. There are things that we need to fix. Alex, we have been in Mwanza. You didn't see even Kavera anywhere. We can never talk about resilience or sustainable food systems if you still have a dangerous item called Kavera. People are using it to cook food in it. People are using it and they are littering it everywhere. And we cannot talk about production in the next 100 years if we do not sort out this issue. We are going to be presenting a proposal to the council, the city council, to think about a strategy to ban Kavera in the city, if not even in the region. That we should be known that if you are coming in our region, you are coming to a city, Kavera is not allowed. And we should be giving opportunities to the youth to co-create other solutions for us to use. And if we don't do that, we'll keep talking about these issues and they will never end, because through science, if you have Kavera, it will actually limit production. And now, as we are using it for cooking, the cancer cases are going to increase. So that is the proposal that we are going to be presenting, and I wanted actually to bring to the attention of the guest of honor. And KRC, of course, with support from the board and the board of trustees, we are going to be supporting this process and engaging other partners and call for their attention because Kasunga is not being taken as a project. If it was a project, it would have ended with Kasunga 1. Kasunga is a process, and a process that builds in each other. We are having now Kasunga 11. We expect more Kasungas. So in between the two Kasungas, KRC and the partners will be engaging councils, will be engaging ourselves to start looking at the resolutions of the retreats and try to make proposals, and we try to engage each other to solve these problems. So we are very committed as an organization, and I hope the board is here and is listening to this, that we are going to be influencing different development partners to allow us to incorporate a number of changes, even if they are not budgeted for. And we are able to really fix our own problems. Mind you, the development partners who are coming in, we really appreciate that they are coming in to support us, but they are actually coming with a very specific agenda. They are interested in quick wins, but we need actually to solve our own problems. They are here just to support us, but the whole mantle is on us. We need to change our own narratives. We need to, first of all, to change even our own conviction to really know that this is something that we need to fix by ourselves, and then when we can be able to say, well, I think we are on a right journey. So we have that commitment. And going back to our meeting for the 2 days, of course, there are a number of discussions that have been, many issues have been discussed, and we have come up with a communique. And I want to take this opportunity, guest of honor, to go through this communique so that we can be able to present also the same issues as a follow-up in the subsequent meetings that we are going to be having with the districts. So I'm going to read as it is, and it reads, communique on the outcomes of the Kasunga 11 Leaders Retreat held at the Mountains of the Moon Hotel, Fort Portal, Tourism City. That is 21st to 22nd November 2024. And the preamble is, we are the participants of Kasunga 11 Leaders Retreat convened on the, at Mountains of the Moon Hotel, Fort Portal City, November 21st to 22nd, 2024, having deliberated on the following topics. Consciousness of key actors ahead of the 2026 general elections, free and fair elections as a driver for peace, functionality of formal and informal mechanisms to harness mitigation and management of electoral-related violence for peaceful coexistence. Number 4, role of the culture and religious institutions in ensuring peaceful electoral processes and managing voter expectations for quality leadership throughout the electoral cycle. The role of conventional and online media in the electoral process with a bias on youth and women. And lastly, instrumentalization of the youth people in the electoral process, risks and mitigation measures. We resolved as follows. Addressing mindset challenges, participants recognize that entrenched negative mindsets have tampered peace efforts, impeded social and economic growth, and increased vote expectations for monetary incentives from leaders. And the recommendations were, or include, recommend to the Interreligious Council, that's IRC, to put a ban on church fundraising activities during campaign sessions. The second one was to launch broad awareness campaigns as mindset change led by all the stakeholders. To prioritize the main set change pillar under the parish development model, PDM, through district RDC's offices. Strengthen community policing structures and promote innovative voter education strategies, taking lessons from effective methods like puppet shows showcased during the retreat. Under food insecurity and malnutrition, participants highlighted the link between food security, hunger, malnutrition, vulnerability to political manipulation, with malnutrition contributing to mental health challenges. And the recommendations included promote household food production and consumption of indigenous seeds, conduct mindset change campaigns targeting food security at the community level, and strengthening informal conflict resolution mechanisms, acknowledging the limitations of formal court systems in delivering justice and managing conflict. Delegates emphasized the need for functional and impartial informal structures, and they built a number of recommendations that included to empower district peace committees and elders forum at all administrative levels, to engage cultural and religious institutions to mediate, counsel, and resolve conflicts, and to advocate for strengthened local or legal framework to deter election malpractice and violence. Under identifying and nurturing new leaders, delegates expressed concern over the absence of systems to identify and nurture leaders with integrity, and they came up with a number of recommendations that include to establish a transparent methodology for elders to recommend potential leaders, to create a regional leadership academy to train, mentor, and nurture young leaders, to establish a regional elders forum to promote peace and provide guidance. And lastly, to include culture and religious institutions to enhance accountability. Under ensuring free and fair and credible elections, after recognizing the importance of peaceful elections, all stakeholders committed to sign a pledge for peace as a demonstration of commitment, affirming their roles as peace actors, enhance collaboration and interaction between stakeholders and actors to promote peaceful electoral processes, political parties should enhance internal democracy to promote a transparent process of identification and election of candidates or flag bearers, and political parties should also provide sufficient financial support to their candidates to reduce the pressure of financial burden. Under advocating for electoral reforms, delegates highlighted the need for an electoral system that ensures inclusivity and proportionality in government. This would minimize competition and violence. Under strengthening intercultural unity and reconciliation, kingdoms, it was suggested that kingdoms, or resolved that kingdoms should put in place initiatives for reconciliation, collaboration, and harmony between them. But participants acknowledge that youth are being manipulated into violence by leaders through financial incentives because of poverty. And they recommended that train youth as peace builders through income generating ventures and dialogue initiatives. Adopt transformative thinking with a guided ideology, focus on global accepted standards, and we need to ensure proper and effective messaging that connects food and health. We need to make consumers and producers appreciate and embrace indigenous foods or traditional foods, and we need to leverage the brand of Fort Portal as a tourism city to translate it into wealth creation opportunities. Now, therefore, this communique is adopted this day of 22nd November 2024, and it has been witnessed with a number of stakeholders or leaders. That includes Fort Portal Tourism City, Kabarole District, Bunyangabo District, Kasese District, Ntoroko District, Bundubujo District, Kamwenge District, Kitagwenda District, Kenjojo District, Kegebwa District, religious leaders, and Toro Kingdom, Obusinga bwa Rwenzori Kingdom, Obudingia bwa Bwamba. I end the communique. I still take this opportunity. Before we get the guest of honor, I would like to invite the chairperson of the Rwenzori MP Forum to humbly invite the guest of honor.
Thank you, Sharif, for giving me just a simple task. I have to say that I had to go and bench our chief guest in his office and convince him to be here. And I was looking at the clock and wondering whether I'm going to fail this time round with him. But many times I have gone to him, I have succeeded. And we succeeded in this very hall when we were getting the Fort Portal Tourism City. It was in this hall where he came and presided over the process. So I think this is a very special day. I feel nostalgic because I remember the memories of the city. Now we have it. And the person who worked hard to ensure we are among the first 10 cities is right here before us. So with that, I take the honor to invite this gallant man. As you know, he was in the bush.
There is a member of parliament in Uganda who has a right of way in my office. So when he arrives, the secretary surrenders and he just enters my office. And that is Honorable Alex Ruhunda, resource persons, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, thank you for inviting me to close. For I think that with our sub-ethnic tribes, It is fine to have independent districts, but of course with self-determination, that each district exists as an entity. But we can also agree and work together in a region for development. At a regional level, we can discuss peace, security, economic development, education. And we can also discuss trade within the region, and there has been trade in this region, time immemorial, trade in this region. There is no trade barrier between Nyahuka and Kiegegwa. Is there a trade barrier? No. People just trade. Or for that matter, between Kasese and Fort Portal, there has been total trade. The taxi drivers who drive from Fort Portal to Kasese, I don't know how many times, isn't it? In a day. So this region is lucky that there is no barrier as far as trade and movement, etc. is concerned. And that's very, very important for us as a people and as a region. And there is also trade which is thriving between Fort Portal and Kagadi, for example. You cannot ask me if I'm moving from Kagadi through Kienjojo, where are you going? You will not ask me. Because I'm trading, I'm free, and I'm fine. So maybe we should have a chamber of commerce, and I mean a chamber of chamber of trade, isn't it? And commerce in this region between ourselves and maybe the DRC Congo, isn't it? So that we trade, so that a delegation of business entities, the Chamber of Commerce based in Fort Portal or wherever, finds its way to the nearest cities or towns in the DRC, and we discuss business. And we discuss business, and you cannot imagine if trade really was to thrive between the towns here and the towns across, isn't it? We would find ourselves making a lot of money. The other point which I want to discuss is whether there can be sequencing of development plans, sequencing of district plans with other district plans in our region. Does Kitagwenda district compare development plans with Kabaroli? Can Kienjojo district compare or sequence plans with the other district neighboring? I do not know. So if you are a region and your development plans are not sequenced, then we are working in a silo. Do we have a development agenda? We have a total development agenda, yes. So we need that total development agenda, which we have, but we also need to sequence the way we plan and the way we manage as although independent district, but at the same time following the Toro. So therefore the Toro development plan, which Honorable Kiraso is talking about, which does exist, should actually be promoted so that every Dick and Harry is aware of this plan, and we work together and see what can come out of this beautiful, wonderful country of ours. Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you for this very, very interesting discussion. And thank you, Chair, for inviting me, and my very good friend, Honorable Alex Ruhunda. Congratulations, and I wish you the best.
TheSpy Uganda, TheSpy Television, Andrew Irumba. I'm in Fort Portal. I've been actually attending a 2-day retreat for leaders, and it's called Kasunga Leaders Retreat. And this is the 11th. And it's organized by KRC, Kabarole Research Center. And I'm with the Executive Director of KRC, Kabarole Research Center, Mr. Sharif Muhammad. Not Muhammad Ali. This one is in Fort Portal. Now, the last note we see on our program is Orugali. And Mr. Sharif would like to explain to us what really this means when we say Orugali. Mr. Sharif, if you can give us a history about the Orugali.
Yeah. Orugali is a traditional approach that was used, and Orugali itself means a platter. A platter. Where you can have the different foods, and traditionally people will put that tray or platter, and they'll have diverse foods, and then you'll have children, also the mother and the father also enjoy the same meal, and the concept was built around diversity. But along timelines, this tradition had gotten lost because
so the African families used to eat together, sit and eat together,
and cooked, and it was actually prepared in a very natural way. They were never used to burn food, but they used to have different recipes